The grand hall of the Empress Zyra's palace stretched farther than the eyes could see. Its crystal walls shimmered with the light of 3 suns, casting rainbows across the polished floor. Ships of every imaginable shape floated in the air outside, carrying delegates from distant worlds who had come to compete in the greatest challenge the galaxy had ever known. 80,000 beings, each hoping to win the favor of the Empress, had gathered here. Some were humanoid, some were not. Some had scales, tentacles, or wings. Some communicated through colors or vibrations. Every one of them was proud, arrogant, and certain that they could impress the Empress more than anyone else. At the heart of this gathering stood the floating throne, suspended by invisible forces. Empress Zyra herself was a vision of elegance and power. Her eyes, silver and bright, seemed to see through everything. Her voice, when she spoke, was soft yet carried across the vast hall like a song. She had ruled for centuries, and every race in the galaxy knew that winning her favor was the greatest honor imaginable. Delegates rushed about, showing off their inventions, performing incredible feats, and displaying skills that most humans could not even imagine. One group demonstrated a battle simulation, where robotic armies danced across the floor, striking down holographic enemies with perfect precision. Another performed a musical sequence that blended lights, sounds, and psychic energy, making everyone in the room feel emotions that were not their own. A third group built a machine that could bend gravity, letting objects float and swirl as if defying the natural laws of the universe. Everywhere, aliens watched each other with suspicion and envy. Each was trying to find a flaw, a weakness, a small reason to claim that their competitor was less worthy. The hall buzzed with tension, excitement, and a touch of fear. In the middle of all this chaos, a human walked quietly. His name was Captain Ethan Rall. He did not rush or push to get attention. He did not carry an enormous weapon, a dazzling device, or a spectacular showpiece. He simply walked, observing everything with calm, thoughtful eyes. His uniform was simple, clean, and completely ordinary compared to the extravagant displays around him. He did not speak loudly or gesture dramatically. He simply moved with purpose. Many delegates noticed him at first and laughed. "That human? He has no chance," whispered a tall, blue-skinned diplomat with 4 arms. "He does not even try. He stands there like a rock. What can he possibly do to impress the Empress?" Another delegate, with feathers that shone like molten metal, nodded. "I agree. He is weak, unprepared, and foolish. Humans think they can compete with 80,000 of the galaxy's best. He will fail within minutes." Ethan heard none of it. He walked steadily toward the observation area where the Empress could see him. He stopped and simply looked at the great hall. He studied the other competitors, not with envy, but with curiosity. He watched the machines, the performances, the displays of strength and intellect. He noticed that most of the aliens were not paying attention to each other. They were focused only on themselves. Each one wanted to be seen as the best. Each one wanted to impress the Empress with something that looked flashy, complicated, or powerful. But in their focus on display, they were not thinking, not learning, not observing. Ethan smiled quietly to himself. He did not need to impress anyone with gadgets or magic or tricks. Humans had a different approach. They survived because they adapted. They succeeded because they learned quickly. They were clever, patient, and willing to try unexpected solutions. That was what made them remarkable. That was what made them dangerous in the right circumstances. The day of the humans' turn arrived. Delegates from countless worlds watched curiously. Many of them still whispered, some laughed outright. 80,000 beings had prepared, practiced, and polished their presentations. And then there was Ethan, standing quietly, doing nothing. The Empress spoke. Her voice floated across the room. "Next is the human representative." A murmur of disbelief ran through the hall. "The human, that one? He cannot be serious," said a tall crystalline delegate. "He does not even carry a display." The hall's floor shifted, glowing patterns appearing to guide the human forward. Ethan walked calmly, step by step, toward the center. No weapons, no inventions, no lights. Just a human, alone, standing in front of the Empress. The Empress watched him carefully. She did not speak for a moment, only observing. There was a quiet dignity in his stance, a calm confidence that was not arrogance. It was strange for her because in all her centuries of observing delegates, she had never seen one who was not desperate to show off. Every being wanted attention. Every being wanted to be impressive. And yet here was one who simply existed quietly and without effort. The Empress finally spoke. "Human, what will you show me?" Ethan tilted his head slightly, and then he smiled. "I will not show you anything," he said. "I will simply answer your challenge." The hall erupted in murmurs. Delegates whispered urgently to one another. "He will answer the challenge? But he does not even have a display." Empress Xera raised a hand to silence the hall. "Very well," she said. "The challenge is simple. Solve the problem of the shifting orbits of the 3 moons of Velora. Their paths have begun to destabilize, and without immediate intervention, the moons will collide within a week. 80,000 delegates have tried to solve this problem, but none have succeeded. You may attempt it in any way you choose." A long silence filled the hall. Delegates shifted nervously. The problem was considered impossible by even the most advanced civilizations. Complex calculations, sophisticated machines, and endless simulations had all failed. Ethan stepped forward. He knelt by a projection of the moons, studying their paths carefully. He did not touch any buttons or manipulate any devices. He simply looked. He listened to the problem. He asked questions quietly, not for the Empress's benefit, but for his own understanding. Hours passed. Aliens stared in disbelief as the human made no dramatic gestures. He did not call attention to himself. He did not shout, signal, or manipulate powerful machines. Instead, he worked quietly, thoughtfully, and deliberately. He observed the patterns, noticed small irregularities, and slowly began to understand. Finally, Ethan spoke. "The moons are being pulled off course because of a resonance effect between their gravitational fields and the star's energy flux. If we adjust the orbit of the smallest moon slightly at the point of maximum solar alignment, it will stabilize the entire system." He reached for a simple control panel nearby, not one that was fancy or advanced, but one that was basic enough for anyone to use. With a few careful adjustments, he activated the mechanism. Slowly, the projections of the moons began to shift. Their chaotic paths straightened. Within moments, the danger disappeared. The moons stabilized, moving gracefully in their correct orbits. The hall fell silent. 80,000 delegates stared in disbelief. Every advanced calculation, every complex machine, every brilliant display of alien skill had failed. Yet here was a human doing nothing spectacular, simply observing, thinking, and acting. The Empress's eyes sparkled. "Remarkable," she said softly. "You have accomplished what no one else could. You did not seek to impress with lights, sounds, or displays. You observed, learned, and acted wisely. That is human ingenuity at its finest." Whispers filled the hall. Aliens could not hide their astonishment. How did he do that?" murmured a tall, insect-like delegate. He didn't even try to compete." Ethan stood quietly, calm as ever. He bowed slightly to the Empress. "I did only what needed to be done," he said. "That is all." The Empress smiled. "You understand, human. That is enough. It is not the effort to impress that matters, but the wisdom to act correctly. You have shown the galaxy that humans are not measured by their display, but by their mind, their judgment, and their courage." The hall erupted in applause. Though many delegates did so reluctantly, they were proud but humbled. For the first time, they realized that the human race was not just another species. Humans were clever, adaptable, and unexpectedly formidable, and they had done it without spectacle, without arrogance, and without trying to impress anyone. Ethan walked quietly back to the observation area. He had completed the challenge. He had changed the minds of 80,000 beings without a single grand gesture. He had shown the true nature of humanity, calm, clever, and quietly powerful. And the Empress, watching him closely, knew that the galaxy would never be the same. Humans had arrived, not with machines or displays, but with something far more valuable: intelligence, patience, and wisdom that could not be predicted, replicated, or beaten. From that day forward, the delegates spoke in hushed tones of the human who did not even try, and yet succeeded where 80,000 others had failed. And Empress Xera, wise and discerning, smiled quietly. She had witnessed the beginning of a new era. The era of humans. The hall was still buzzing from the astonishing event of the human solving the impossible problem of Velora's moons. Delegates whispered to one another, their pride wounded, their assumptions shattered. 80,000 had tried, yet only one human had succeeded, and he had done it without fanfare, without a single display of power or brilliance. Empress Xera observed quietly from her throne. She had seen centuries of beings try to impress her, each one relying on their own strengths and accomplishments. Yet this human had achieved what no one else could. There was a calm intelligence about him, a subtlety that no one had expected. She knew then that humans were unlike any species she had encountered. Ethan Rowell stood back, his posture relaxed, his hands behind his back. He had no intention of showing off. The victory had not been for him but for the truth of human capability. The Empress spoke again, her voice gentle but commanding. "Human, you have shown wisdom beyond measure. Tell me, do you seek reward, honor, or title?" Ethan shook his head. "I do not seek reward," he said. "I act only as needed. That is how humans operate. We do what must be done, not for praise, but because it is the right action." The delegates gasped. Many were not used to such humility. To them, every accomplishment was meant to be flaunted, every victory broadcasted. The idea of acting solely for necessity rather than recognition was alien. Some felt admiration, others irritation. They could not understand a being that succeeded without seeking attention. The Empress leaned forward slightly. "Then you leave me no choice but to create a reward suitable for your actions. Humans are rare in their ways. You have demonstrated intellect, courage, and clarity of thought. These qualities are what I value most. I will honor humanity with the title of Strategic Allies of Valora. You and your species will have access to our knowledge, resources, and guidance. The galaxy will see you differently from this day forward." A murmur ran through the hall. Aliens looked at each other, struggling to process the implications. They had competed with 80,000 beings, each hoping for recognition. And yet the prize went to the one who had not tried to impress. One of the insect-like delegates finally spoke, his voice trembling. "But how can one human with no special equipment, no extraordinary talent, achieve what 80,000 of us could not?" Ethan smiled calmly. "Because humans do not always follow the rules of expectation. We observe carefully, think creatively, and act decisively. Sometimes the solution is not in force or spectacle, but in understanding and patience. That is what makes humans capable in ways others do not anticipate." The room fell silent again. Aliens reflected on their own methods, realizing that pride, overconfidence, and reliance on complex displays had blinded them to the obvious. They had underestimated simplicity, observation, and flexibility. Empress Zira gestured, and a holographic display appeared, showing human achievements, their exploration of distant worlds, their ability to survive in harsh environments, and their ingenuity in solving seemingly impossible problems. The delegates watched, many with surprise, others with growing respect. Humans were more than they had believed. Ethan turned away from the display and spoke quietly to the Empress. "There is one more thing. The moons are stable for now, but the galaxy is unpredictable. My species can help, but we will learn faster if we are treated as partners rather than subjects. We seek understanding, not dominance," the Empress smiled. "You speak wisely. You shall have your partnership, human. You will work alongside my advisors, your knowledge combined with ours. Together we will prepare for the challenges that lie ahead." For the delegates, this was unprecedented. They had never seen a species achieve victory without arrogance, without spectacle, without self-promotion. They began to realize that humans were a force unlike any other, quiet, clever, and surprisingly effective. As the days passed, humans became more involved with the Valoran Empire. They studied alien technology, shared ideas, and solved problems that had baffled generations. They did not boast, they did not seek to dominate, but they quickly gained a reputation for adaptability and insight. Delegates who once mocked them now watched carefully, realizing that the human way of thinking was powerful and unpredictable. Ethan continued to observe and act with calm precision. When a diplomatic dispute arose between two alien species, he resolved it with logic and empathy, avoiding conflict. When a sudden malfunction threatened a critical energy source, he identified the problem and implemented a simple but effective solution. Everywhere he went, he demonstrated the human qualities of patience, intelligence, and cooperation. Other delegates began to change their strategies. They realized that spectacle alone was not enough. They had to think, adapt, and learn. Humans had shown them a different way of achieving success, by understanding the problem fully and acting decisively. One morning, Empress Zira called Ethan to the palace garden. The sky glowed with the colors of 3 suns, and the air was filled with the scent of alien flowers. She spoke quietly, almost as if sharing a secret. "Human, your species has opened my eyes. You remind me that intelligence is not measured by tools or power, but by creativity, insight, and courage. You do not seek recognition, yet you achieve what others cannot. That is rare in the galaxy. Ethan nodded. We do what is necessary. That is all we ask. To be understood and allowed to act where needed. The Empress smiled, her eyes reflecting the sunlight. You will have that understanding. Humanity will be an example for all. You have reminded me and all who watch that strength is not always loud or visible. It can be quiet, subtle, and yet more powerful than anything else. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, word of the humans' victory spread quickly. Other civilizations took note. Humans were no longer considered a simple, weak species. They were clever, adaptable, and unexpectedly formidable. Stories circulated of the human who did not try to impress and yet succeeded where thousands had failed. Aliens began to approach humans with curiosity and caution, understanding that their methods were unlike any other. Back in the palace, Ethan walked among the delegates quietly, observing without judgment. He saw curiosity replacing arrogance, respect replacing envy. The galaxy was changing its perception of humanity, not because humans boasted or fought, but because they acted wisely, calmly, and effectively. Empress Zira watched him one last time before the ceremony ended. Remember this, human, she said. The galaxy underestimates those who do not seek attention. That is where true power lies. You have shown me that humans are not just clever, they are extraordinary. Ethan bowed politely. Thank you, Your Majesty. We will continue to do what we must, and in doing so, serve the galaxy in the best way we can. The hall echoed with applause, not just for the human, but for the realization that the galaxy had underestimated one of its most capable species. Aliens from every world began to reconsider their assumptions, their strategies, and their understanding of intelligence. In the days that followed, humans became advisors, collaborators, and problem solvers across the Valoran Empire. They did not seek glory, but they achieved it anyway. The galaxy learned a lesson that would not be forgotten. Humans succeed not by striving to impress, but by understanding, adapting, and acting wisely, and so, the human who did not even try became a symbol of ingenuity, humility, and the quiet, unstoppable strength that defined humanity. The Empress smiled, knowing that she had witnessed the beginning of a new era, an era where humans would change the galaxy simply by being themselves. Delegates whispered for years to come. 80,000 had tried to impress the Empress, yet one human who did not even try had shown them all the true meaning of power and humanity. Calm, clever, and unassuming, had only just begun.